The following program is brought to you by Podcast One Sportsnet. Don't forget to download our new Podcast One app.
I can't believe it.
That Philip brought his little brother on our mission into orbit.
How long until we get there? How long until we get there? How long until we get there?
No, I can't believe how easy it was to save hundreds of dollars on my car insurance with Geico.
What's this button do? What's this button do? What's this button do? What's this button do?
Don't touch that.
Believe it, Geico could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
He's defeated every champion from every organization the sport of mixed martial arts has ever seen, and retired from the octagon as the biggest draw and the industry's highest paid athlete of all time. And now Chael Sonnen's on PodcastOne.com. And for that, you're welcome.
What's happening, guys? Happy Wednesday! And thank you for joining another special episode of You're Welcome. You know, I had a little Dolce diet meal last night. Mike Dolce, when he used to come out to the house, I was cutting down to 185. He made some of the most delicious food. You wouldn't even believe it was diet food, but he would do chicken cutlets. And chicken cutlets aren't simple for West Coast people. All right, that's more of an East Coast thing. Like, you can't even just find them in the store and then, you know, to pound them out and figure out how to do all of that stuff. It's just not something we do out here. It's not something where you walk down the street and you see chicken cutlets and chicken cutlet sandwiches all over the place. That's an East Coast thing. So my wife got the pounder and she pounded this out. But the difference with the Dolce diet is, you know, so you take the chicken, you dip it in the egg batter like it's French toast, then you roll that, and that's where it's going to taste good. But for it's whatever your crusting is that makes it taste so good. But we used almond flour instead of, you know, a shake and bake or Ritz crackers or corn flakes or something like this. Almond flour, and then all that we put on top of it was organic ketchup, which organic ketchup actually tastes better than regular ketchup because it tastes more like tomato. But it was a very good meal. I thought I would just tell you guys that because it's real quick and simple. If anybody wants to try that, really the only ingredient that you need is the almond flour. That's probably the only thing that you just don't have in your house ordinarily. So there was my diet tip for you for the day. But as we look ahead to this weekend, Ngannou versus Blaydes, that match is peculiar to me right off the bat because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't totally get it. Why are these two fighting each other? What is this all about? And they had fought before, and Blaydes lost to him. So I'm guessing without actually having been told, maybe because Blaydes is the worst promoter in the history of the sport, but I would assume that he wants to get that one back, that he wants to right the wrong, if you will, and that he asked for this fight. I don't know. Whatever the story is behind, I can assure you Curtis Blaydes will never, ever in a million years let us know or give us some reason to tune in for his fight. So I'm guessing that that's what it's all about, which I like. I think it's an interesting story, but Ngannou is also a very interesting character that needs to be studied. He's got to be studied what happened there, okay? Ngannou turned out to be a flash in the pan, which sounds very insulting. It's not meant to be. It's the reality that he turned out to be a flash in the pan. Nobody had come in with more hype than him in recent memory, and maybe ever. He had the full steam of the company behind him who thought he was going to go on, capture the world championship, and run with it for a meaningful period of time. And they let you know that. They were more than happy to come out and tell you, this is the guy. This is the guy that's going to grab the crown and move us through the next decade. So when those things just simply did not happen, he was then given another very good spot. It was a co-main event spot. But it was on what was projected to be a very big card, biggest card of the year, projection-wise, of Cormier versus Stipe. And he ends up getting booed out of the building. And after that happened, that was his fight with Derek Lewis. After that happened, he had a real come-to-terms moment, and I appreciated it. I thought, okay, things are going to get a lot better because he is now saying all of the right things, which is just simply the truth. He's having a counseling session, but he's doing it through the media, and he's told all of us, man, I was scared to death. I was scared to death in that Derek Lewis fight. I was having memories of what Stipe did to me, took me down, held me there, beat on me, and I didn't have an answer for it. And I just did not want to feel that way again. Well, that was very helpful. And even though that may look bad, and the result did yield something negative for him, like anybody with a problem, admitting the problem is the first step to recovery. So I liked that. I thought this is a good sign. It's a very good sign. Now he's going to go back in there and step in with Curtis Blaydes. And where that gets interesting to me is, first off, why are we doing the fight? If I'm right in my hypothesis that Curtis Blaydes is pushing for it and would like to do this match, if I'm right in that, where does that leave Ngannou with a loss? He would go from number one contender within the last 12 months to 3 losses in a row, which would make him eligible for release. So what does he do? Was it meant to be a favorable matchup for Ngannou? With that, I have a problem. First off, he's beat Blaydes before, so maybe there's a level of confidence, and he was happy to go in there and try it again. But the style, he has failed at twice in a row. And the style, first and foremost, we're just talking about a guy that can wrestle. I mean, that's what we saw in the Stipe fight. We saw a guy that was able to take the other guy down, being Ngannou, keep him there, beat on him, stack up the rounds. In many ways, that's the same thing that he faced against Derek Lewis. And even though Derek Lewis did not opt to wrestle and very little happened in that contest, it in many ways was the same matchup, which also yielded, whether those techniques were used or not, a negative result. So the fact that Ngannou is going to step into that same kind of a style, a long, durable, younger, tough guy in Blaydes who can wrestle, it's interesting. It's interesting what Ngannou's mindset would be, particularly after he removed the curtain and let us all in on it. Let us all in on the fact that he was worried, that he believed his own hype, that he thought he was invincible, that he found out he was not, that he has a kryptonite, and now he's going to step in with that similar style for a third time in a row after the first two did not go well. That could be interpreted as a Barry Ngannou statement by me and narrative. I see it just the opposite. I see it as a very brave and courageous move by Ngannou for him to go in there against that same style that he's had a deficit against over the last 12 months and try it out a third time means, if I'm interpreting this correctly, that he is in the gym, that he is working on the things that he feels he needs to do to plug the hole in the boat. I think that there's a real honor in that. I thought there was a tremendous honor when Conor McGregor did that, when he lost to Nate Diaz and said, Dana, give me a rematch. And Dana said, all right, but here, we'll do it down at your weight class at 155. And Conor goes, no. We're going to do it the exact same. Same rules, same opponent, same arena, same weight class, same everything. I don't want any excuses. I want to try to beat him. I want to try to overcome those obstacles in the same setting. And then when he did, I thought it was a really honorable and courageous and showed a lot of character. It really told us a lot about Conor McGregor, the person. And I think that perhaps Ngannou should be giving that same credit. I think, and I'll never know, because Ngannou isn't going to tell us, and Curtis Blaydes sure as hell isn't going to give us any kind of fun, any kind of a reason to watch his fights. So I'm left to guess. But I think if you're going to give Ngannou the credit that I feel he deserves for taking on that same kind of a skill set that's given him problems in the past, then you also have to give that same credit to Curtis Blaydes, because Curtis Blaydes did come up with the silver medal the last time those two went out there and fought. So Curtis Blaydes has to overcome his own mental and physical deficits of dealing with Ngannou specifically, and the fact that he's willing to do that and is going to walk out there for a second time against a guy that he didn't make it the duration with, I think there's an honor in that for him too. I think we're learning something about Curtis Blaydes here, regardless of his inability to promote his own contests. From a physical standpoint and from a character standpoint, that seems to me what a real competitor would do. And I want to make sure that Curtis also gets his credit for that, because he appears to be a real competitor. And I like the match. I do like it. I like to see, am I right? Is Ngannou working on things in the gym? Can he stop Curtis? Can he keep it on his feet like he did before and touch him up? The other side of that coin, I don't feel that we're going to see the same Curtis Blaydes. I don't think that Curtis Blaydes was armed with the information that he has now in terms of the power of Ngannou and the reasons that you don't want to stay on your feet in front of that guy throwing hands back and forth. I just think Curtis just simply did not know what strategy he should use, and I think that he has a confidence in it now. Can he go out and do it? That's really what it comes down to. And if the answer is yes, if Curtis Blaydes can just go tackle him and keep him there and beat on him, it's not going to be wonderful. It's not going to be wonderful for Ngannou. And why he would be eligible for release with his third loss, I don't believe that he would get it. I certainly don't hope that he would be released, but I also don't know that he would be. I think there's plenty of fun things you can do with him. It would just steer us in the direction of he's not going to be a contender, and we have to pick his matches a little more carefully. If you guys were to say, after this fight, by example, and Ngannou loses, and you guys were to call for his resignation or vice versa, his pink slip and his release. Okay, great. But what if I was to tell you before we did that Ngannou was going to fight Mark Hunt, right? Do you guys see the difference there where all of a sudden you go, oh, wait a minute. That would be pretty fun. That would be pretty interesting. So there are some guys that just have to be matched up accordingly. Mark Hunt may well be one of those guys. And I don't know that there's anything wrong with that. Over a period of time, once you realize a guy is not a contender, and largely in the big promotions of Bellator and the UFC, they are about finding contenders. Largely, 95%, but not 100. There's still room. There's still room for those vets. There's still room for those recognizable names. There's still room for those guys that are very, very fun to watch when they are matched up with other guys that have a like mindsets and skill sets, and they're going to go out and be good dance partners for one another. So Overeem also has a fight. I think that Overeem falls into that same category in many ways where there's just something there. Anytime the Reem fights, there's just something there that's a little bit special, that's a little bit unpredictable. Overeem is very unpredictable. Who in the hell knows what he's going to go out and do? He can look for knockouts, but he can also look for submissions, and he'll put himself at risk the whole time, and he could get cleaned up. Who knows? I mean, Verdum fights that same way. Verdum's in the conversation for the greatest heavyweight of all time. With many of you, he wins the conversation, right? Finished Fedor and finished Kane. Who are the other two guys in the conversation? Comes down to those three, and Verdum's got the jump on both of them. But one of the things that was so fun about Verdum, didn't matter if he was coming off a win, didn't matter if he was coming aloft, didn't matter if he was fighting for a championship, didn't matter if he was fighting early on the card. He was reckless as hell. And as good as he was, he would put himself in jeopardy at all times. So if you're a naysayer and you don't like Verdum, you got to tune in for his fights because he was never safe. He would go out of his way to put himself in danger. He just had one of those styles, and more times than not, it worked out for him. But he was going to play with fire. You like saving cash, right? You know what's even better? Saving hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. Well, if that revs your engine, then get ready for this. You can do it right from your living room. All you have to do is go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. Extra money in your pocket? It just might be the most rewarding thing you do today. And the other topic that's going on is Daniel Cormier, what he's going to do. And we can sit and talk about this and speculate on it. And guys, I would tell you, buckle in and be ready for the ride, because I have a feeling we are going to talk about it many times, because something keeps coming up. And the biggest talk right now about Daniel Cormier is Daniel Cormier's pending retirement. That should not be the biggest talk on Daniel Cormier. We should not allow that to be the narrative, because whether he's got a pending, everybody's got a retirement coming up. Everybody's got a release, a relinquishment, an exit from the sport coming up. They just don't know when it is. Daniel's is a little bit different because he gave us the expiration date of March 6th, which signifies his 40th birthday. So that has become the headline, but we got a two-division reigning world champion successfully defended both titles that could have the biggest fight of 2019 in front of him should he get that match with Brock Lesnar. I understand he could have an even bigger match in front of him should he get in there with John Jones. I would just also tell you, Daniel can only do so many things at a time. If you would like him to get the Brock Lesnar fight, and it is my understanding that essentially unanimously we would like him to get the Brock Lesnar fight. We're not in a position to pick, would we rather see Lesnar versus Cormier or Jones versus Cormier? That's not even on the table. So don't put that on Daniel. Let him get through the Brock Lesnar fight. Let's just agree to do that. Then, if we all want to start harping on him and go, you said March, but we could have Jon Jones in there with you by summer. We're only 3 months apart. That's pretty close. What do you think? Well, then there's a place for that. But where we get out of order is that Jon Jones has Gustafsson in front of him at the end of the year. The reason that is so relevant is because the first fight was so incredibly competitive and close. We will see a diminished Jon Jones in this next fight. He is coming off a suspension, and he did not use that suspended time wisely. We will see a diminished Jon Jones. We have seen a diminished Jon Jones one other time in our lives. That was against OSP. The single worst Jon Jones has ever looked inside that octagon. He still won every part of that contest. He won the striking, he won the grappling, he won the endurance, he won the strategy, and he won every single round and left there with a world championship. That's just how good he is. So there's no put down here coming Jon Jones's way. There's just a reality that when a guy has been out and he did not use his time wisely, and he's going to be diminished when we have the evidence of the first fight, which we do have, there was no room. There was no room in that fight to go down. It was a split decision. I personally thought Gustafsson won. One judge agreed with me, 2 did not. But it was that close of a fight. That's the only reason I tell you the score of the fight. It was just that close of a fight. There's no room for error. They were splitting hairs out there. It would also be very fair for you guys to counter what I just said by saying, wouldn't it be reasonable to believe we're going to see a diminished Gustafsson in that fight? That part I couldn't answer to. He wasn't coming off the suspension. So he's not going to be without the help of the chemicals that he had before. That won't happen. But he also hasn't been in there for a meaningful period of time. Did he use that time wisely? I don't actually know. I don't know on Gustafsson if he did or not. I would trust that he did. He's a very disciplined guy. 2 different psychologies there, 2 different level of discipline. And you guys can see where that would make sense. Jon Jones has climbed that mountain. Time and time again, he's climbed it. How many times does he want to climb it? Gus hasn't. So just basic logic would tell you about the hunger. So I think that we could reasonably assume that Gus used that time wisely. Where am I going with this? Well, guys, Daniel Cormier is not inserted in this. We keep having a dialogue of Daniel Cormier versus Jon Jones. Daniel Cormier, to our understanding, has his plate full in a different weight class, in a different year of 2019 with a different opponent named Brock Lesnar. And currently, Jon Jones, in a different weight class, has his plate full with a guy who one licensed, certified, ringside judge thought beat him the last time they fought. Should Gus get the jump on Jones? I do not believe that you guys will still be wanting to see Cormier versus Jones. I believe at the forefront. I think you're going to want to see Gus versus Jones Part 3. We will only know should those events happen and once we get through them happening. But that would just be my early prediction for you. And somehow Daniel Cormier is taking the weight of this. And his legacy is continuing to be called into question here. His mindset, his achievements, and his accomplishments out of fans' own selfish, corrupt desire to see him and Jones again. And I share that. I also have a corrupt desire to see them fight again. I am just willing to admit to you that that's where this is coming from. It is not because I actually think they have to fight. I will also remind you of this, okay? I do not believe in any possible scenario, again in this lifetime, or at least athletic lifetime, that Daniel Cormier ever weighs 205 pounds. I do not believe that to be true, but let's make believe, or let's just say that that's where he agrees to fight Jon Jones. Because Jon Jones has also been very stubborn to say he will not move up. I tend to think that Jon Jones is telling the truth. I think he could be talked out of it, but I think he's telling the truth. I don't know that Daniel Cormier has the ability to return to 205 pounds. But I would share with you this and remind you the heavyweight champion of the world is the king of the world in every sport, from Hulk Hogan to Muhammad Ali to Daniel Cormier. Whoever holds a heavyweight strap rules the world. So to ask Daniel Cormier or to make believe that he should set his crown down to go and try to become the prince, it doesn't work that way. Whatever wrongs he feels he has to right, or whatever peer pressure is going to be put on him from you guys, from myself, from the promotion, that's not the way it works. The president does not become the vice president. To ask Daniel Cormier to go after the 205-pound championship, and don't forget, it would be after the championship, because he is going to be stripped. So if Jon Jones is to be the guy, then that means that John has to beat Gus, and John is the official champion. So you'd be asking Daniel to go down in weight to take on a much less prestigious belt, with the caveat of the narrative being it's to fix his legacy. Even though that isn't true. The real truth is you just want to see the fight one more time. But what gives you the best chances to see the fight? Put as much pressure on the guy as you possibly can. Tell him you respect him if he does one thing, and you'll lose respect for him as he does the other. I get it. That's what's actually happening there. And it just may work. But there'll have to be some meeting in the middle. And as much as I'm giving you guys this talk and this speech, I do believe we are going to see Daniel Cormier versus John Jones Part 3. But it needs to be, and it will be, at heavyweight. But it also needs to be at heavyweight. It does not make sense for the king to go after a lesser crown. Don't forget that.
You're listening to You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen.
Alexa isn't the only one with breaking news. Make sure to hang around at the end of this podcast for the latest breaking headlines on the AP News Minute.
The hit podcast Zane's World found a new home on Podcast One.
La Gonzalina. Probably should have corrected that before the show.
World traveler, author, and alcohol aficionado Zane Lamprey is well learned in the art of embracing a good time as he reviews the best attractions and destinations on the globe.
So we went to Black Market Liquor Bar.
Just tell us what you remember.
That's what I remember.
Check out Zane's World every Tuesday on Podcast One or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
If this season in college football has gotten you fired up, then just wait as the regular season is coming to an end. The college football postseason is about to heat up. 4 teams will soon be selected to play in the college football playoff, airing Saturday, December 29th, only on ESPN. The selection show on December 2nd at noon Eastern on ESPN will unveil the 4 teams playing in back-to-back playoff semifinal games. As of this Monday, November 19th, the following teams all have a shot at making the college football playoff: Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Michigan, Georgia, University of Oklahoma, Washington State, Ohio State, and, of course, West Virginia. It goes without saying that this is make or break time in college football. Check out the College Football Playoff Selection Show on December 2nd at 12 noon Eastern. And don't miss the College Football Playoff itself, airing Saturday, December 29th, only on ESPN.
Now back to You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen.
So Ronda Rousey is in some verbal dust-up with some jobber wrestler that is accusing her accurately. I mean, bringing real life into the storyline, but accusing her of hiding under her blanket and taking her ball and going home as soon as she had a defeat in mixed martial arts. And I think that's a really good storyline. But whenever you have a worker, and I would provide you with her name if I had the foggiest idea what it was, but whenever you have a worker that's coming out and starts to bring in real life and reality, it usually is incumbent on the other worker to have to answer for it with a truthful answer. When one person shoots on you, it's very hard to work back. If they shoot on you, you got to shoot on them. That's the general rule. So if Ronda is going to be forced to answer for her departure from MMA, she's going to have to tell the truth. And I think that Ronda has been very candid. To know that she was hiding under a blanket and taking her ball and going home and looking to go elsewhere, that's evidence and information that you have because Ronda provided it. I thought it was helpful. I thought it was very helpful. The part where so many fans would get irritated is she just wouldn't quite go far enough. The fans wanted it very clear that Ronda was never a good fighter. She was never the best in the world. She was a flash in the pan in a division that was forming. She was taking out girls that were called number one contenders that never had to prove it because it was too new. And as soon as people started to settle into divisions, and as soon as we started to see who the top fighters were, put them opposite Ronda, they ran through her. For some reason, the fans want that said by Ronda. And I think that is asking a little bit too much. Ronda never did anything wrong. Ronda took the fights that Ronda was asked to take without turning them down. And there is a bit of a rewriting of history that Ronda turned down Cyborg. That absolutely never happened. Ronda said yes to Cyborg repeatedly, just said, you got to come to my weight class. Which, to remind you guys, historically was the only female weight class, which was 135 pounds. There was no 145 pounds. There was no 125 pounds for that matter. So historically, Ronda never ducked anybody. She went in there and did the heavy lifting, but she was caught up in it as much as the media and the promotion and all of the fans were, in that she really didn't know. All she knows is the reality that she has, which is she walks out there and girls can't even make it through the first round. Most couldn't make it through the first minute. Several of them were very lucky to get 2 digits in second form before their arm was caught in something and they were out of there. So what did Ronda know? She wasn't wrong to believe she was the best in the world. They said she was. She fought in a world title fight. She left with the belt and got her hand raised. The hell did she do wrong? The other side of it was, yeah, she wasn't a fighter. She understood aggression. She understood to punch and kick and stretch and strangle aggressively something that wasn't punching, kicking, stretching you back. When she dealt with that, now she's in a fight. Big difference. Big difference. Aggression versus a fighter. It's a big difference. And, most fighters, it doesn't end well, guys. And it's not just our sport. You can say this about most athletes, but all they have to look forward to in retirement is alcoholism. Talking about the good old day. Talking about when they used to be on TV and people were asking for their autographs. It's not a wonderful cycle. Ronda is somebody who made it. She found something else. She built her star up bright and shiny enough to transition into something else. And there was an immense jealousy because of that. When there should have been a pat on the back. I don't watch WWE very much. I do watch it when Ronda's on as a form of support to Ronda. So good for her, but I will be curious how she's going to handle this. It's going to be a very hard thing to go away until Ronda has the ability to squash it. Jane Doe Jobber is getting traction with this because she worked reality into the script. And it's like anything in life, guys. It's the truth that hurts. Somebody's telling lies about you? That's annoying. That doesn't hurt. It's the truth. When you got to go, oh, man, damn it. And that's what she's going to gain traction with it. And she's going to stay on Ronda. And it's not going to go away, whether it's scripted television, entertainment, or not. And the good folks at the WWE, contrary to what you guys may believe, are not going to hand Ronda the right answers. They're just going to hand her lines. It's incumbent upon Ronda as the performer to get the psychological edge here. And you see the fascination. You see where logic is not going to work. The logic is, yeah, I went out there and did it. I got off my biscuit and I went in there and risked it. You never did. So how could you possibly judge me? I failed at something that you never once had the courage to try. That would be the logical answer. I'm just telling you, logic does not work in a debate. So where's Ronda going to go with it? I don't know. But I think we're going to have some fun finding out. I'll tell you, guy, that I have not seen stub his toe yet, but it's Israel Adesanya. Everything he does, he has done right. From his physical abilities to his mental capabilities. He has star written all over him. And so many guys, as soon as they have some success, they can either use that as a springboard or they can get comfortable. And we talk about it over here all the time. It is always okay to read what they say about you, but it is never okay to believe it. If they say you are the greatest ever and you believe it, you will not be in that spot for long. If they say you are terrible and you believe it, life is not going to be very fun for you for very long. Izzy does not appear to be doing either of those things. He appears to be getting better, working harder, learning from his experience, and offering more entertainment and creating more demand. So it came out over the week, over the weekend, but Izzy was offered the weigh-in spot. I don't know what to call this. We need to figure out a term for this. I might have just had it right there. Offered the weigh-in spot. That might be a great term. But what I'm talking about, guys, is when there's these big fights, and in this case it's Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum. Big fight in Australia where Whittaker's from. First ever Australian champion. The Power of the Ultimate Fighter television show behind it. Long-awaited matchups. Long roads to this spot for both of them. Gastelum coming up the hard way to become the top contender. When you have fights like this, and you're in a sport like mixed martial arts, where you see shuffling at the last second. Somebody can't make weight. Somebody's hurt. Somebody's this. Somebody's suspended. What are you going to do? What do you do? Well, what the UFC has started doing earlier this year is weighing in another guy, having that other guy in the weigh-in spot prepared. he does a contract that he will fill in and take on either guy. He goes into a training camp, which has to be a terrible spot. Your motivation for that's got to be tough. Plus your strategies and your breaking down and everything that your opponents, it's got to be a little bit tough with your coaches. Because now you got two guys. And Gastelum and Whitaker fight drastically different, not for nothing. But I mean, a little bit tougher spot to go in to prepare. So, okay, great. They're weighing these guys in. So Izzy would go through, he'd get a license, he'd deal with the commission, he'd get on an airplane, he'd go all the way out there, he'd do absolutely everything. And he would actually get on the scale. He'd cut the weight, he'd get on the scale. Now, he has shown as well, if he's not given an opportunity to and win, because he doesn't ever do the fight, he's now paid just to weigh in, just to be on standby. Well, I love that the promotion's doing that. I think there's tremendous talking points on that, but I think it's also tremendous preparation, very forward thinking by the promotion. But what Izzy did is he said no. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. I am not going to go into training. You want me to do the fight? Give me the fight. Pull either one of those guys out, put me in, but give me a contract. I am not going through the preparation. I'll do everything you want me to do. Just give me somebody to fight. Not a maybe. I'm not doing this on a maybe. Well, that was interesting. We've never had somebody say that before. I've never been offered one of those. I've never been put in that spot. I would think that I would like it. Sure. I'm training every day anyway. Weight's always under control. Like to fight. Might have the opportunity. Love to get a paycheck and sit in the front row. Never had that. Izzy said no. Not interested in it. Which I thought was a very interesting play, but it also does give you one more dynamic, doesn't it? It tells you that that's the guy. You can't put him in that spot to fill in for a world championship and then come out a day later and say he's not the top contender. It doesn't work that way. If he's not the next guy in the line, what in the hell was he offered the contract to weigh in for to fight for the world championship potentially? So now that we understand, and there's always a few guys, right? You could pull Izzy out and put Jacare in. I mean, the guys are interchangeable. Jacare's got his arguments too. Sometimes you get log jammed where you've just got so many studs. Luke Rockhold has to come to mind. Yoel Romero, and we keep discussing him in that weight class. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know if that's right or wrong. He hasn't been that weight in a meaningful period of time. He has not actually made the weight. He's scratched on his last two, and he's talked about going up to 205 pounds, where I would like to see him go. I think there's a lot of fun to see with some new parity, Yoel up at 205 pounds. But the relevance is, those are your usual suspects right now. So if Izzy is anywhere in that conversation, and we know for sure now that he is, regardless of his ranking, we now know where he truly stands because he was offered this opportunity. I think that just makes for something very interesting down the road for Izzy. Whatever is going to be next, I mean, what are you going to do? You're not going to hold him out, put him with the winner of Gastelum and Whitaker. I don't think. I think you got to keep the guy busy. So let's take those two off the board, and now let's look at Rockhold. Let's take a look at Jacare. Let's throw Romero into the mix. And tell me who of those three guys you'd like to see Izzy fight the most. I think we can all agree there's no fight there we wouldn't want to see. So now who do we want to see him fight the most? Because it sounds like you're probably going to get your way. You're probably going to get to see Izzy versus one of those absolute top guys. And then with a win, should he get a win, slide right into a world title fight, which is pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting. And the UFC does not agree with me in one way. I think, and I wish, but I will tell you, a little of this is selfish because I come over here and do something like this podcast or go make the YouTube videos or go on Arrow the Bad Guy on ESPN Plus. I need things to talk about. Okay, in fairness, I do need things to talk about, and this does help me. So maybe this is the more of the commentator in me than it is the intellectual fight student in me. But I love the dialogue of not knowing which of three is going to fully happen. Let's promote one. Let's promise one. But let's have a conversation. But what if it doesn't happen? I mean, we just saw this with Usman. When it was Usman on standby to take on either Till or Woodley. That guy, so many things to talk about. First off, let's talk about Woodley Till. That's the one that's signed. That's the one we're promised. That's the one that's on the marquee. But then all of a sudden, well, what if Till misses weight? You know, that's happened before. And Woodley versus Usman. Oh, my goodness. And you break that down. You have all your fun on that. And then you go, well, wait a minute. What if it's T. Wood that pulls out? And it's Usman versus Till. And now it just gives you one more dimension to start talking about. The UFC sees it as, no, let's not offer a distraction. Let's tell the fans specifically what they are getting and specifically when they can get it. Proven recipe that has worked out great through the history of time. I'm just saying, now that you're doing something new, which is this weigh-in spot, let's talk about it. Let's start speculating. Let's start having some fun. And if there is one of those potential matchup where everybody goes, oh my gosh, I would love to see that. I would love to see Usman versus Till. Okay, great. Well, now we know what we can do next. I think that could start to serve very well. I was in the exact opposite spot the first time I ever heard about this. It was Volkan. Volkan weighed in the weigh-in spot for the Stipe versus Cormier fight. They brought him all the way over from Russia. They got him licensed, got his medical done, worked out a contract for financial participation with him, and put him on the scale. I never even knew he was the guy waiting in the wings until he got on the scale, and I thought, you know what? I would have liked to have known that. I think that is a great narrative. And the UFC said, not so fast. We had that on reserve. That was going to be a last-minute thing. We would have announced at the absolute last second that we had to. But we didn't want to take the focus on what we wanted first and what we were promising to the marketplace up front. I get it. I fully get it. But there is something fun about speculating and knowing who is going to be there just in case. There is something special, more special than the UFC, I think, is aware of. There's something more special than they are even aware of this new policy of weighing in a guy and having the guy on reserve. No more last minute, no more late, no more picking up the phone and calling 10 different people and seeing who can get to the airport and who's within striking distance of the weigh-in limit. Having a guy go through the process, there's something very, very special about it. Now, the question is, first off, what do we call that guy? Do we call that spot the weigh-in spot? I kind of like, Nick, what do you think? It's not bad. The weigh-in spot. It's in the bullpen, right? It's in the dugout. First off, we need a title for it because it is a deserving title. It really is. I mean, it's a very hard spot, and you are a heartbeat away, as they say in politics, from fighting for the world championship. So there is something very special about it. So it deserves a name. And secondly, do we promote that in some fashion? Do we do like what they did with Volkan, where it's secretive and it's private because they don't want to use it to distract? Or do we dangle that possible carrot out there because that guy deserves some credit too? I mean, we're in the credit business here. Not very many people are ever going to make enough money in this sport to call it. And not very many people are going to go on and reach their goals to become champion, if we're being fair. You know, when Kenny Florian left the sport, he talked about that. You know, they said, Kenny, why are you leaving? You haven't been champion yet. I think he fought for like 4 world titles. If I'm wrong, it was 3. But he goes, hey, guys, look, not everybody gets to be world champion. But there was just a real truth in that. So the point that I'm getting at, let's celebrate more things. Let's celebrate number 1 contenders. Let's celebrate top 10 ranking. That's more inclusive. But I think we should also look to celebrate a guy who goes through a world title training camp, which is what Izzy said no to, but that's what he was asked to do, and it's a pretty cool thing. It's a pretty cool thing. Every car comes with its share of stories. The ding in the bumper when you've nervously picked up your first date, or the mileage you saved by riding your bike all summer. While you can't put a price tag on your stories, now with TrueCar, you can at least find out what your car is worth when it's time to sell or trade it in. Just go to TrueCar. Simply enter your license plate number and watch how your car's details pop up. Then just answer a few questions, navigation, moonroof, high mileage. You already knew it was going to cost you, but now you will know how much of a hit it's going to be so you can plan ahead. Once you're finished, you'll get the TrueCar offer sent to you in minutes, which you can take to a local certified dealer to cash out on your trade. So when you're ready to experience a better way to sell your trade-in, check out TrueCar. True cash offer not available in all areas. Guys, where do we go from here? Do I have anything else to offer you? I don't think I do, but I will on Friday. So until then, I'm Chael Sonnen, and you are welcome.
Thanks for listening to You're Welcome with Chael Sonnen. Download new episodes every week at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com.
It's Thanksgiving season, and Podcast One is your home for the best cooking podcasts around. Get a helping of celebrity chef Rick Bayless on The Feed.
That was a lot of food. It was a lot of food.
With a side of Forked Up, a Thug Kitchen podcast.
You want the okra dusted.
Then top it off with a slice of Richard Blaydes on Starving for Attention.
This is a crucial part of a hot dog, right?
Happy Thanksgiving, and enjoy The Feed, Forked Up, and Starving for Attention each week on Podcast One or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Technology Truths, brought to you by Geico.
Technology Truths.
Truth. Teenagers can communicate entirely in emojis.
How was the birthday party? Pizza slice, kitten, soccer ball, pineapple?
Truth. It's so easy to switch and save on car insurance at geico.com.
What are you talking about? Paperclip, shoulder shrug, high five, wizard hat? What?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
I'm Rita Foley with an AP News Minute. 54 million of us are jamming the highways and skyways for the Thanksgiving holiday. American Airlines spokesman Justin Franco at New York's LaGuardia Airport.
We have 160 flights scheduled for today, and 95% of those flights are going to be going out full. So we're the second largest air carrier here at LaGuardia, so we're expecting a busy day today.
There is a new E. coli outbreak linked to romaine lettuce. Health officials are warning everyone not to eat romaine lettuce. 32 people have gotten sick in 11 states. The CDC's Dr. Laura Geroltowski.
We are receiving more reports of new illnesses, and so this is an ongoing investigation, and we'll be sure to update the public when we have more information.
President Trump taking heat for not going to Arlington National Cemetery on Veterans Day and skipping an observance at an American cemetery for war dead in France, says he will visit U.S. troops in a war zone, though he isn't saying where or when he will be going. I'm Rita Foley.